Hi, this is Randy Kirk, and we're going to talk about a subject today that's a little bit different. We have a whole bunch of folks out there. Maybe they're just all fudsters and they really all just hate Tesla and hate Elon Musk for all the reasons we've talked about in other videos. But some of them just might be confused, and some of them are even people who like Tesla and get all nervous about market share. So what we want to talk today about is what market share really, does market share really matter at all? Does it ever matter? Does it matter sometimes? Anyway, if you like this kind of content, if it's helpful to you, please hit the like button. And we're always looking for more subscribers. It helps the channel. It makes the channel look better to YouTube, which means that we get more folks following us, which means that it creates more revenue, and revenue is necessary in order for me to keep this channel going. There's also Patreon opportunities. And if you'd like to be part of Patreon, that helps the channel as well. So let's talk about market share. For a lot of products, market share really matters. If I'm a major supplier of some kind of frozen vegetables and I'm looking for shelf space at Ralph's, and I want to make sure that I get my proper shelf space, as a salesman, I'm going to go in and argue with the Ralph's salesman, with the Ralph's buyer, and say, look, we have this much market share nationally, and we get this much from this frozen vegetable and that frozen vegetable, and therefore you should give me this much shelf space, and it matters, okay? So when people get talking about market share, who know something about marketing, who possibly have had a marketing position, or maybe they just follow it carefully and they think, boy, it's really important that we have market share. Well, they would be right. In fact, even in the automotive business, General Motors on their truck, once they have their top of the line pickup truck, once they have more market share than Ford does on their top of the line pickup truck, and more than the rest, everybody else, okay, Chrysler and the rest. So there's a fight over market share, and market share helps to validate that the things you're doing are correct, okay? It also helps because if the consumer sees that the Ram has more market share, if more people are buying Rams, then some consumers are affected by that. They go, oh, wow, if they're that far ahead of everybody else in terms of the public buying their vehicles, then it must be better. At least that's some evidence that it's better. Some people might look at it the opposite. I've always wanted to have a car that nobody else was driving. And so, that might affect me the opposite. But market share matters. Market share matters to the stock market. The better your market share, of course, the more volume of product that you're making. And therefore, you are going to reduce your costs, because as volume goes up, costs to manufacture go down, cost of raw materials go down, et cetera, based on volume. So you're going to get a better cost of goods, and that is going to help you to have more pricing power, which might increase your market share. So there's very good reasons why people in the automotive industry talk about market share. Let's now talk about when market share doesn't matter at all. Market share doesn't matter at all when you can't make enough of a product. So if the total market for automobiles is 80 million automobiles, and Tesla is making 2 million of them, or last year 1.3 million, if they're making 1.3 million of them, and that gives them 1.3 million out of 80 million, something on the order of 2% market share, less than 2% market share, people say, oh, well, they only have 2% market share, but they made all that they could make. So market share is irrelevant. They can't have more than that amount of market share because they're making every single car they can make as fast as they can make them, and all of them are getting purchased. So now I hope that is understandable, that it just doesn't matter. The total percentage of cars made and the percent and how Tesla fits into that only will matter if Tesla has inventory piling up. So at that moment, at the moment that Tesla says, we made 1.3 million, but we could only ship 1 million, now market share begins to matter, because they're not selling every single one they can make. Now, it gets more complicated than that because you have to go territory by territory. So you could say right now in multiple European countries, Tesla has #1 market share. Some of those countries, they have #1 market share among all vehicles. Sometimes it's only among BEVs. Sometimes it's among all EVs, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes it's, in some countries, they're #2, #3 in market share, in unit volume. And none of this matters. It's interesting, and it's kind of fun as Tesla investors and people who like Tesla and people that are excited about it, the fanboys. It's kind of fun and exciting to say, oh, we're #1 in this market, or we're #2 in this market and gaining. And there's a lot made of the fact that we're #1 or #2 in some specific market. But it's really irrelevant because Tesla can't make any more cars than they're already making. They're making them as fast as they can possibly make them. So if we take the Netherlands and we're #1 in the Netherlands, great, we're #1 in the Netherlands because why? Not because well, it may be because there's great demand there, but what it boils down to is that Tesla is shipping more product to the Netherlands than they are to Saudi Arabia because they have to make choices. Where am I going to send the cars? So people get very excited about the China situation, about the market share in China. Oh, market share is dropping in China. Even among BEVs or among EVs, Tesla is now dropping among all other makers in the same category. It doesn't matter. They can't make any more cars, and they're shipping every car that they make. Some of those are going to China, but out of the same factory. Some of those are going to Australia, New Zealand, Thailand, go around the globe. They're going to all these different places. And so, yeah, they can say to the Netherlands, we're not going to give you any more because we want more market share in China. Nope, sorry. In 2023, we're not going to ship anything to Europe. No Model 3s at all from Shanghai are going to go to Europe in all of 23 because we want to increase our market share in China. What advantage would that be? What would be the goal in trying to get some prize for being the top market share in China when you've just eliminated all of your shipments to Europe? So, as a marketer, my entire life, I will tell you that in many cases, I care on my products what kind of market share that I have. If I'm flat out producing 100%, as much as I can possibly produce, I can't build factories fast enough. I can't ramp up my lines fast enough in order to fill the demand. Then the only market share that matters is how I might manipulate or decide to fill a certain market compared to another market. That's the only choices I can make is who am I going to take the vehicles from in order to put them somewhere else. I hope that helps you with market share on the things that don't matter, at least not now. They could matter in the future. The market share that matters slightly is the market share of total vehicles sold. So what is the total BEV percentage of all vehicles? Now, once again, with few exceptions, and there are a few exceptions, there are a few cars that are not selling, a few BEVs that are not selling every car they can make. They're just not good cars, apparently, because in this market, it's hard to imagine how you make a car, a BEV in this market and not be able to sell it. But some of them are not selling well. Either they're not attractive enough, the technology is not cool enough, the specs aren't good enough, the price in terms of the specs is not good enough. So there's reasons why even in a sold out market, in a market that's just, the demand is huge, why you might produce a product that doesn't do well. It's hard to imagine, but it is possible. But the overall market for BEVs versus ICE is the one that we should be interested in. That's the mission. The mission is to eliminate ICE. The mission is not to eliminate other BEV makers. Yeah, we're competitive and we're interested in the fact that Tesla is doing better than some other BEV maker, but that isn't the goal. That's not the mission of Tesla. The mission of Tesla is to eliminate all ICE vehicles. It's not even to eliminate the ICE makers. It's not to eliminate General Motors. It's not, we don't want to get all excited. General Motors is going bankrupt, as you've probably heard from some folks, and that's fine. It's good. It's entertaining to think about whether General Motors goes bankrupt as a result of their being too slow to market. That's an entertaining concept, but it isn't the mission of Tesla. The mission of Tesla is to change over the world to BEVs. And that mission has to include lots of other makers. Tesla cannot make 80 million cars a year anytime soon. Maybe by 2050, maybe even by 2040, if that was it, if nobody else could make the cars, or if everybody else made crummy cars and it was all about Tesla, maybe someday they could make all the cars. But it's not very likely anytime soon. So if we want to make that transition happen fast, then that means there's going to be other successful players. I'm going to do a whole video. I've been promising this video for a very long time, and I haven't done it. I had a very specific person that I wanted to interview on this subject who I trust, and so far he's turned me down over and over again. So if you guys know I'm not going to name him after all. Okay, so we will go through it. I have in the Elon Musk mission in the book, I do have a list. It's now 3 months old. It's not that far out, but I do want to update it. I have a list of how we can get to 60 million total BEVs by 2027. That would be my speculation. It requires General Motors to do 2 and Ford to do 2, et cetera, et cetera. But I kind of have a list based on what I think their public statements have been, what it appears that the reality is when you look at their current ramps versus their public statements. But it is possible, I believe, to get to 65 million cars by 2027, primarily Tesla and BYD. But that's another video. Again, I'm asking you to like this content if you liked it, subscribe, join Patreon, and it's really been great talking to you today.